She was betrayed by her best friend and pushed into the sea by her boyfriend. 5 years later, she appeared at a party with a billionaire husband and began her revenge. The late afternoon sun bathed the ship's deck in golden light, casting a warm glow on Larissa's hair as it fluttered in the wind. The sea, usually calm at this time of year, seemed to vibrate in harmony with Larissa's joy, gently rocking the boat. As Larissa leaned over the stern to watch the dolphins dancing alongside the vessel, a shadow of apprehension crossed Mariana's face. Her gaze, fixed on her friend's back, did not mirror the happiness that illuminated the rest of the scene. Beside her, Ricardo observed the interaction in silence, a slight furrow of his brow betraying his unease. The idyllic moment, like a sandcastle built on the shore, was about to be swept away by the relentless tide of fate. Ricardo's hand trembled slightly as he touched Larissa's shoulder, interrupting her contemplation. "Why don't you open Mariana's gift?" he suggested, his voice carefully neutral, while he cast a quick conspiratorial glance at Mariana, who, with a rehearsed smile, hid the calculating glint in her eyes. She handed over a package wrapped in shiny paper. "Happy birthday, Larry. I hope you like it," she said, as Larissa unwrapped the gift, a silver necklace. With a pendant shaped like a wave, she took advantage of her friend's distraction to whisper in Ricardo's ear, "It's time. We can't miss this opportunity." A chill ran down Ricardo's spine as the promise of power and wealth that Mariana had offered echoed in his mind, drowning out the last remnants of guilt that tried to surface. He nodded, his lips forming a thin line, and stepped away to retrieve something from the cabin, his determination hardening his gaze. Meanwhile, unaware of the web of lies and betrayal closing in around her, Larissa admired her friend's gift. "It's beautiful, Mari. Thank you," she exclaimed sincerely, standing up. Larissa walked to the edge of the boat, lifting the necklace toward the sun. "Look, Ricardo, see how it shines? It's as if it reflects the light of our love," she said happily, oblivious to the dark expression taking over her boyfriend's face as he watched her standing so close to the edge. A sudden gust of wind hit Larissa's face, causing her to turn back toward the interior of the boat. In that very moment, Ricardo, with a swift and calculated move, pushed her. The cry of surprise died in the young woman's throat as she lost her balance and fell off the deck. The cold water enveloped her in a suffocating embrace. Larissa emerged, coughing and struggling against the waves that tried to drag her under, her eyes fixed on the boat, which was quickly moving away, taking with it her only hope of salvation. On the deck, Mariana and Ricardo watched the scene. The rehearsed expression of panic faded from their faces as they moved further away from Larissa. The plan had been successfully executed. "Are you sure she—" Ricardo began to ask, his voice heavy with the guilt he was trying to suppress. "Don't be stupid," Mariana cut him off, her eyes shining with a terrifying coldness. "The current here is too strong. No one survives." As the boat disappeared into the distance, taking with it the life and dreams Larissa once knew, she clung desperately to a piece of broken wood from the ship. The current dragged her away, but the will to live, fueled by a growing rage, burned in her chest like an unquenchable flame. She refused to become just another victim in the web of lies and ambition spun by those she once loved. The hours stretched into an endless torture under the relentless sun, and Larissa's strength waned with each wave that battered her exhausted body. Clinging to the fragile piece of wood that kept her afloat, her throat burned with thirst, and the memory of Ricardo and Mariana's betrayal gnawed at her, more painful than the wounds beginning to open on her skin. Just as hope started to fade, like a candle's flame extinguished by the wind, a distant speck on the blue horizon reignited the last spark of strength in Larissa. A modest but sturdy fishing boat was cutting through the water. Waves rolled in her direction, and with the last bit of energy she had, she waved her arms, shouting for help. even though she knew her voice was lost in the vastness of the sea. Fate, however, seemed to have other plans for Larissa. One of the fishermen, drawn by the glint of sunlight reflecting off the silver necklace she still wore, spotted her. The boat changed course, cautiously approaching, and soon Larissa was pulled aboard, unconscious but alive. In the days that followed, Larissa drifted between unconsciousness and feverish dreams as the fishermen tended to her wounds and nourished her with what little they had. When she finally regained fragmented and confused consciousness, she found herself in a small fishing village, taken in by humble people who offered her the most valuable things they had: compassion and shelter. The first weeks after the rescue were a blur in Larissa's mind. Memories of the accident, the betrayal, and the fight for survival mingled with the care given by the fishermen, creating a mosaic of pain in her still fragile mind. The village, a welcoming refuge amidst the vast coastline, became her cocoon, far from the big city, its hollow ambitions and false friendships. Larissa found a peace she never imagined could exist. Her days were spent helping the fishermen with simple tasks, learning about life at sea and healing the wounds of her body and for her soul. Doña Laura, the matriarch of the family that took her in, became a motherly figure to Larissa, offering wisdom and affection to help her piece together her past, forgive herself, and find the strength to start anew. "The sea has given you back your life, child," Doña Laura would say, as she taught Larissa how to weave fishing nets. "Now it's time for you to weave your own destiny." Doña Laura's words echoed in Larissa's heart. She knew she couldn't live forever as a castaway, haunted by the shadows of her past. She decided to change her name and her life, leaving behind the identity burdened by the pain of betrayal. She adopted the name Aurora, a tribute to the dawn that symbolized her new beginning. Larissa, now Aurora, bid farewell to the village and set off for a distant city, carrying with her the scars of the past and the strength of newfound hope. The big city, once familiar and welcoming, now appeared to Aurora as uncharted territory. The bustling streets, the frantic pace, and the anonymity of the crowd both frightened and intrigued her. It was as if Larissa, the naive and dreamy girl, had been lost at sea, making way for Aurora, a woman marked by pain, but also strengthened by overcoming it, determined to build a new life. Aurora rented a small room in a modest neighborhood and found work as a waitress. In a busy restaurant, the days were long and exhausting, but Aurora found a sense of fulfillment in each small achievement. With every cup of coffee she served and every smile she shared with the customers, she felt as though she was reclaiming a part of herself that she had once believed was lost forever. At the restaurant, Aurora met Miguel, a talented and kind-hearted young cook. Drawn to the melancholic beauty and inner strength reflected in Aurora's eyes, Miguel approached her with caution and respect, gradually earning her friendship and trust. The hurried lunches at the kitchen counter slowly turned into long, late-night conversations where they shared their dreams, fears, and the stories they both carried. As the bond between Aurora and Miguel blossomed, the past she had tried so hard to keep buried began to haunt her once more, manifesting in nightmares and fleeting memories. The image of Ricardo and Mariana and the coldly orchestrated betrayal tormented her nights and gnawed at her spirit. Aurora knew she couldn't move forward while bearing the weight of this unspoken truth, this unresolved injustice. The desire for revenge, long dormant in the depths of her soul, began to awaken with the force of a tsunami. Miguel's kisses, which once soothed Aurora's soul, now carried the bittersweet taste of guilt. She found herself watching him as he slept, his face peaceful and serene, bathed in the quiet light of the night. Bathed in the moonlight, She wondered how she could give herself to love while the shadow of revenge hovered over her heart. The decision to confront her past hit her like an overwhelming wave, as inevitable as the rising tide. Aurora knew she wouldn't find peace as long as Ricardo and Mariana lived freely, enjoying the life they had stolen from her. With each passing day, her anger and thirst for justice grew stronger, eroding the peace she had fought so hard to build. With the cold precision of someone planning a battle, Aurora began gathering information about her tormentors. She discovered that after her disappearance, Ricardo and Mariana had taken control of her family's businesses, amassing wealth and power. This news didn't surprise her. Instead, it fueled her determination. "They are thriving on my pain, on my absence," Aurora thought, her eyes gleaming with suppressed fury. "But I will remind them who I am, what they did to me, and I will make them pay for every tear, for every day they stole from me." Resolved to take action, Aurora quit her job at the restaurant, fabricating a story about a job opportunity in another city. Miguel, though saddened by her departure, promised to wait for her, completely in love and unaware of the whirlwind of emotions hidden behind Aurora's melancholic smile. With a broken heart, but a soul ignited by the fire of justice, Aurora left behind the promise of a happy future and she journeyed back to the past she had once vowed to bury, ready for the final confrontation. Her hometown greeted her with a suffocating embrace of memories. Every corner, every street she walked echoed with the ghosts of her past. The carefree laughter of young Larissa, the first kiss she shared with Ricardo, the whispered secrets with Mariana. The pain of betrayal, numbed by distance and time, surged within her chest like a hurricane. Yet Aurora was no longer the fragile, defenseless girl she once was. The years of struggle and overcoming had forged her into a strong woman, driven by an unbreakable purpose. With each step toward the mansion that once belonged to her family, now occupied by her betrayers, Aurora felt her resolve harden. Using a false name and posing as a successful businesswoman, she managed to get close to Ricardo and Mariana. She observed them closely, studying their movements, their weaknesses, their carefully crafted facades that concealed the rot within. Ricardo, once charming and seductive, now appeared weary and bitter, lost in shady dealings and empty nights. Mariana, on the other hand, had become a caricature of unchecked ambition, draped in jewels and expensive dresses, but with a hollow gaze and an empty soul. Consumed by guilt, Aurora observed everything from a strategic vantage point, feeling a mix of contempt and pity. Her tormentors, despite all the wealth and power they had amassed, were prisoners of their own web of lies, condemned to live with the burden of betrayal that haunted them. Without Ricardo and Mariana suspecting her true identity, Aurora began to infiltrate their social circle, blending into their lives like a silent virus. She attended elegant dinners, charity events, and extravagant parties, always alert to every word, glance, and gesture that might reveal a crack in their armor. The facade of success and philanthropy that the couple presented in public did not fool Aurora. She sensed the hidden tension in their glances, the subtle barbs exchanged amid forced smiles, and the constant fear lurking behind their facade of power and wealth. Meanwhile, Aurora used her new identity to carefully weave her web of revenge. With shrewdness and intelligence, she started gathering evidence of the betrayal she had endured, falsified documents, suspicious financial transactions, and witnesses who had been silenced by fear. Each piece of the puzzle, meticulously collected, brought her closer to the moment of confronting her tormentors and exposing the truth to the world. The perfect opportunity arose during a grand ball. The charity gala, organized by Mariana, featuring distinguished guests and high society elites, was the perfect setting for the downfall of the couple. As Mariana moved through the ballroom, basking in compliments and media attention, Aurora watched from afar with a cold smile slowly forming on her lips. The time had come. The current of revenge that had flowed silently for so long was about to erupt into a tsunami, sweeping away everything in its path. The ballroom thrummed with music and the murmur of conversations, but for Aurora, the entire world seemed to focus on that single point, the makeshift stage where Mariana, in her shimmering gala dress, prepared to give a speech with the microphone in hand. Mariana smiled at the audience, her philanthropy mask carefully in place, but Aurora saw beyond that facade. She detected the greed in her eyes and the calculated coldness hiding behind the sweet and smooth voice. Aurora waited for the opportune moment, the instant when Mariana boasted about the success of the company, the very company that once belonged to Aurora's family and was stolen through lies and false promises. Quietly, Aurora connected her phone to a projector she had discreetly set up in the ballroom the night before. With a click, the screen behind Mariana lit up, displaying old photos flashed on the screen. Aurora and Mariana during their friendship, Aurora and Ricardo during their courtship. The audience murmured in confusion as Mariana, stunned, struggled to understand what was happening. Then came the documents, irrefutable evidence of fraud, manipulation, and the cruel scheme that led to Aurora's attempted murder. Forged contracts, bank statements, compromising emails, everything was projected on the screen for all to see, impossible to deny or ignore. A murmur of astonishment swept through the ballroom. Mariana, pale as death, desperately tried to turn off the projector, while Ricardo, lost in the crowd, felt the cold sweat of guilt on his back. Aurora, unfazed, stepped onto the stage. The music stopped, and the murmur turned into a deathly silence. All eyes were now on her, the woman who had risen from the ashes, no longer a victim, but an avenger. "This woman," Aurora began, her voice steady and amplified by the microphone as she pointed at Mariana. "You tried to kill me and took everything from me, but the truth, like the tide, always finds its way back to the shore." The silence in the ballroom was almost tangible, broken only by Mariana's labored breathing and the frantic clicks of the projector as it displayed image after image of the web of lies meticulously woven by the couple. With each new document revealed, the facade of philanthropy began to crumble. The facade of success and power that Mariana and Ricardo had flaunted crumbled further, exposing the corruption hidden behind their glamorous image. Mariana, stunned and humiliated, struggled in vain to mount a defense, but her words faltered in her dry throat. The audience, once captivated by her charm and charisma, now looked at her with contempt and outrage. The mask had fallen, and the villain behind it was now exposed for all to see. Ricardo, feeling the net closing in, tried to flee through the crowd, but Aurora, anticipating his moves, ordered the doors of the ballroom to be shut. There would be no escape for him, not this time. Justice, though slow, was about to be served. "Don't try to run, Ricardo," Aurora's voice echoed through the silent room. "You and Mariana will pay for what you did. The law will deal with you." As the police, summoned by one of the guests, arrived to arrest the pair, Aurora felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The anger and thirst for revenge that had consumed her for so long gave way to a bittersweet sense of peace. Justice was being served, but the scars of betrayal, like the marks left by the current, would forever be etched in her soul. Ricardo and Mariana's downfall was as swift as it was dramatic, and the evidence presented by Aurora was undeniable. And this time, justice was not swayed by the couple's wealth or influence. Convicted of fraud, money laundering, and attempted murder, they exchanged their luxurious, powerful lives for the cold confines of prison, where they would have ample time to reflect on the consequences of their actions. For Aurora, While justice served did not erase the scars of the past, it brought relief and a sense of closure. The shadow of revenge that had accompanied her for so long finally dissipated, giving way to a soft but persistent light of hope. Relieved of the burden she carried, Aurora chose to leave behind the city, filled with painful memories. She sold the family mansion, donating part of the recovered fortune to the fishing village that had taken her in during her darkest times, and set off for a new destination in a quiet, welcoming seaside town. There, Aurora found the peace she had long desired. She dedicated herself to helping other victims of violence, sharing her story and offering support and hope. It was amid this new mission that fate had one last surprise for her. Miguel, who had never stopped searching for the great love of his life, found her in that small coastal town. Their reunion was emotional, filled with questions, tears, and the joy of two souls recognizing each other even after the storm. Aurora, now free from her past, allowed herself to love and be loved once more. Beside Miguel, she discovered the happiness that the current of vengeance had tried to deny her, proving that even in the stormiest waters, love and hope can flourish. Just as the river flows into the sea, Aurora found her safe harbor where peace and love reigned supreme. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support is crucial for us to continue bringing more amazing content. Activate the notification bell to stay updated with all the latest. Thank you for watching.